Match 66. Ultraman and Gomora versus SpaceGodzilla. By
Not
Christian
my
Seller.
Ultraman.
Not my Ultraman. Two, three. I get six, right? Just making sure. Three,
Seven.
four. Okay, seven. All right.
766.
That's right. 766. One, two,
Yep.
three, four, five, six, seven. That works. Right. Actually, let me do that again. Match 66. Ultraman and Gomora versus SpaceGodzilla by Christian Salibert. Hashtag not my Ultraman. Ultraman soared through the skies over Tokyo, looking over the destruction that had stricken the land. What was once the busy capital of Japan was now a ghost town, covered in enormous crystals. Ultraman knew what had to be done. Soon he would be upon the creator of these crystals and engage him in combat. He hoped he was up to the challenge of taking down such a beast. The doubts had little time to move about in his mind, however, as soon as Ultraman spotted his target, SpaceGodzilla. Godzilla's intergalactic doppelganger took to the air, his eyes closing in on Ultraman as he approached. Knowing instantly that a fight was about to take place, the Cosmic Saurian summoned energy from his crystals, charging himself with his galactic power. Another call and energy from Tokyo Tower poured into his shoulder crystals, giving him an even greater boost. Space Godzilla watched as Ultraman landed in front of him, not too far away. The two titans stared each other down, waiting for the other to break the silence and make the first attack. Non-surprisingly, Space Godzilla made the first move. His corona beam pierced the air, exploding around Ultraman's feet. Before the mighty warrior could retaliate, the bolt traveled up his leg into his chest, knocking him to the ground. Ultraman was back to his feet in an instant and charged Space Godzilla, raising his fist and slamming it into the monster's jaw. As Space Godzilla reeled back, Ultraman lashed out with his leg, slamming his knee into the creature's side. Space Godzilla cried out and fired another Corona beam blast, but Ultraman flipped out of the way, narrowly avoiding the bolt. Ultraman leapt into the air, planting his foot into Space Godzilla's chest, sending the beast crashing onto his back. As Space Godzilla attempted to right himself, Ultraman reached down and grabbed the monster's tail. Ultraman pulled, trying to lift the creature into the air, when a surge of cosmic energy traveled through the tail and blasted Ultraman's hands, forcing him to let go. In a burst of light, Space Godzilla transformed his crystalline flying form and took to the sky. Space Godzilla rained Corona beams down on the area, surrounding Ultraman with explosions. The warrior from Nebula's M78 crossed his hands and fired a specium beam at the flying demon, but the blast merely bounced off Space Godzilla's crystal spikes. Space Godzilla returned fire and struck Ultraman in the chest with the Corona beam, sending the giant lizard crashing through a building. Space Godzilla neared the wreckage to investigate when Ultraman flew high into the air, past his foe.
A
As Space...
giant crashing through the building.
Yes. Oh, wait.
Kai- Kaiju X. I heard Kaiju X say the giant lizard.
As did I. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, sending the giant crashing through the building.
Space believed to be coming in the year in the 90s before they suddenly went extinct after.
Yes, absolutely. Anyway,
I knew Ultraman was a reptilian.
we all knew it. We were just denying it.
Oh, wait. Crap. I thought it was Space Gods. Oh, okay.
Yeah, the giant was
Never mind, continue.
As Space Godzilla flew up to face his opponent, Ultraman fired another specium beam, striking Space Godzilla in the face and drawing out a pained shriek. Space Godzilla lifted into the air to face Ultraman, but the warrior easily outmaneuvered the crystalline creature. Another blast of the specium beam failed to damage the monster's crystals, forcing Ultraman to generate a cutting halo in his hand. He hurled a buzzsaw-like blast at Space Godzilla's back, but even the slicing blade of the cutting halo failed to leave lasting damage, throwing sparks and little else. Space Godzilla turned and fired a Corona beam at his foe, which Ultraman managed to dodge. He dodged a second blast, but a third blast hit home. Ultraman faltered but managed to stay in the air. Shrieking evilly, Space Godzilla flew directly at Ultraman, who did the same. The two zoomed through the air towards each other, intent on knocking the other from the sky. Just before the two collided, Space Godzilla veered off to the side, slashing Ultraman with his crystals as he passed him. Ultraman cried out as he plummeted from the sky, crashing to the ground far below. Space Godzilla peppered the area with Corona beams, striking Ultraman repeatedly. Ultraman groaned in pain as each blast hit home. Man, these are pretty personal.
Well, I didn't know that Space Godzilla carried around a pepper shaker filled with Corona beams.
Of course, you didn't know that? I'm kind of shocked.
I mean,
That's why he's Space Godzilla, because he's like the drunk, foreign relative of Godzilla.
Yes, absolutely. Anyway.
Is this in a deleted scene?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he had a Corona in one hand and a Miller in the other. That's actually what happened. Mogera didn't fight Space Godzilla for a few hours. They actually stopped, had a few beers, and then they got back into the fight.
Yeah. That's why Space Godzilla's kind of crunk when he lands on Birth Island. Anyway.
That already sounds better than the actual movie.
What happens when you just add in a few deleted scenes, man?
Yeah, that's exactly what happens. Anyway. Space Godzilla lowered himself to the ground, withdrawing his flight crystals. Just as Ultraman was getting to his feet, Space Godzilla unleashed another Corona blast, bringing him down once again. His shoulder crystals flashing, Space Godzilla unleashed his gravity tornado, encircling Ultraman with its emerald energies. Ultraman struggled as he was lifted into the air, but couldn't escape the gravity tornado's hold. The mighty defender was helpless as Space Godzilla telekinetically smashed him face first into a nearby skyscraper, bringing it down on Ultraman's head. The attack rendered Ultraman unconscious, leaving him vulnerable to Space Godzilla's wrath. The crystalline demon advanced on the falling Ultraman, absorbing cosmic energy into his shoulder crystals as he went. He looked down at the prone form of Ultraman, generating a powerful Corona beam in his throat. Pass.
Just then, dramatically, the ground began to shake. Space Godzilla was thrown off balance, but managed to keep his footing. He scanned the area as the shaking became more intense, but he couldn't find the source. Suddenly, something grabbed his foot and pulled it down into the street. Space Godzilla shrieked as he struggled to pull his foot back up, but whatever had hold of it refused to let go. His dorsal crystals flashing, Space Godzilla unleashed a Corona beam that curved downward, blasting into the hole that was swallowing his leg. Seconds later, a large form erupted from the ground, screeching furiously at the alien menace. Gomora went on the attack, signaling to Space...
I want to win. I want to win. I want to be in this fight.
I was going to say, signaling to Space Godzilla that he was not going to win this fight, as Gomora will always win. Always. Gomora immediately began to clobber Space Godzilla's face with his clawed hands, driving away from Ultraman. He lashed out with his leg, kicking Space Godzilla's knee. Okay, I just like him kicking you in the shin and then causing just like, haha, what are you gonna do now? Another kick, this time to Space Godzilla's stomach, drove the creature even further back. Gomora raised his hand to strike Space Godzilla again, but the cosmic monster unleashed a blast of his Corona beam, exploding against Gamora's chest and sending him staggering back. Another blast and Gomora crashed to the ground, shrieking in pain. With a speed that belied his bulk, belied,
I believe.
Belied his bulk, Gomora was back on his feet and spun around, whipping Space Godzilla's face with the end of his tail. Space Godzilla stepped back, reeling from the blow, giving Gomora an opening to attack. Gomora charged, slamming his horned head into Space Godzilla's gut. Space Godzilla cried out, but managed to grab onto Gamora's horns. Gamora struggled to pull himself free, but was helpless as Space Godzilla channeled his intergalactic energy through his hands and into Gamora's head. Sparks erupted from Gamora's skull as the energy assaulted his body, a sight which made Space Godzilla cackle with evil glee. After a moment of this attack, Space Godzilla shoved Gamora away as the subterranean dinosaur stood back up. Another Corona beam forced him onto his knee. Space Godzilla advanced on his downed foe, but Gamora was back on his feet in an instant, his horns brimming with crimson energy. A pulsing stream of energy suddenly fired from Gamora's snout horn. Slamming into Space Godzilla's chest and eliciting a cry of pain and surprise. Gamora pressed on, his oscillatory wave scorching Space Godzilla's flesh. Gamora cut off his attack, taking a moment to recharge. Space Godzilla's dorsal fins flashed. Expecting another Corona beam, Gamora unleashed another blast of his oscillatory wave, intent on not giving his opponent a chance to release his weapon. Unfortunately for Gamora, seconds before his attack would have struck Space Godzilla, the Space Demon revealed he wasn't going to fire his Corona beam. A crystalline energy shield popped up in front of Space Godzilla, not only protecting the monster from Gamora's blast, but also redirecting it back at the horned reptile. Gamora had no time to react before his own energy wave slammed back into his face, knocking him to the ground in a burst of sparks. Dazed, Gamora struggled to get back to his feet. He tried to push himself up off the ground, but a blast from the Corona beam sent him back down. Another blast ceased any further movements from the reptile. Space Godzilla made his way next to Gamora's prone body and prepared to finish him off. Suddenly, he paused, curious. Where was that strange beeping noise coming from? Flying through the air, Ultraman planted his foot in, sending the space monster careening to the ground. As with most shows, you just see the foot fly through his body, and then you see the monster take off like a cartoon.
Absolutely.
One
more paragraph.
Okay. Yep. Gamora slowly rose to his feet and locked eyes with Ultraman. The two nodded to each other. They knew neither one of them could beat his foe on their own. They needed to combine their strength if they were to triumph. As Space Godzilla telekinetically lifted himself back to his feet, the two struck their respective battle poses and charged. Space Godzilla absorbed more energy into his shoulder crystals as he prepared to destroy his foes. Maybe together the two would provide the Galactic Godzilla a worthy challenge. He unleashed a Corona beam at the two of them. Ultraman flipped over the blast and Gamora jumped to the side, allowing the blast to explode against the pavement. Landing next to Space Godzilla, Ultraman kicked his side, causing him to stagger. Seconds later, Space Godzilla was struck in the face by Gamora's tail, sending him back towards Ultraman. The red and silver warrior raised his hands and fired a specium blast into Space Godzilla's neck, eliciting a shriek of anger from the beast. As he turned to face Ultraman, Gamora charged in and slammed his horned skull into Space Godzilla's gut, knocking him back. The two backed away and, standing side by side, fired their respective beams at Space Godzilla. His shield was up in an instant, redirecting their blasts. Ultraman rolled out of the way, but Gamora's shoulder got caught by the specium beam, bringing the heroic monster to the ground. Wait, I just want to also make note. Isn't Gamora supposed to be like one of Ultraman's foes, not a heroic monster?
I think with the KWC, we often kind of go with the Ultra Galaxy version of the character, even if he has no connection with the Rayonic people. So, yeah, it's a little odd, but I do believe it's like, we're just writing Gamora as the Ultra Galaxy version, which was very heroic. So,
gotcha. So he's a heroic villain. Major point. Ultraman was quickly back on his feet and hurled a cutting halo at Space Godzilla, but the monster brought up his shield again. As soon as the energy blade hit the crystalline shield, both instantly shattered. Space Godzilla shrieked in surprise. Something had destroyed his shield. Before he could mount another attack, Ultraman tossed another cutting halo at him. But this time, he threw a second one a few seconds behind it. The first one shattered as it destroyed Space Godzilla's shield. Well, it should be a new shield. But the second one kept on going, striking the monster's left shoulder crystal. Though it failed to slice all the way through, it did manage to gash out a sizable chunk from the crystal in a shower of sparks. Space Godzilla cried out angrily, unleashing a Corona beam which snaked around Ultraman before blasting him in the face, knocking him into his back. Pass.
Into his back?
Into his back, yes.
Into his back.
Into his back. Back again.
The red energies of the super auxiliary wave blasted into Space Godzilla's face, knocking him back. Gomora kept the beam firing, making sure to cause as much damage to Space Godzilla as he could. Unable to fire his Corona beam as explosion after 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 explosion erupted
Space
into
Godzilla's
space.
like, enough already, we get it!
He fired one of his power crystals out of the ground like a missile. Power crystals?
Interesting.
Power crystals. Might as well be the Zeo crystals. The projectile struck Gomer in the back, causing him to cut off the beam and shriek in pain. Space Godzilla followed up with a jagged bolt of energy from his mouth, which circled around Gomora before scorching his stomach. Gomora jumped back in pain before another Corona beam brought him down hard. Space Godzilla shrieked as another cutting halo chipped his left shoulder crystal. He turned around, spewing his Corona beam as he did so. The lightning-like blast tore through the city as he swung it around, before hitting Ultraman and knocking him away. Ultraman gripped his chest as he tried to get back to his feet. His color timer was beeping rapidly. Gomora could sense his allies' increasing power loss. They knew they had to finish this foe now. So Ultraman made Gomora turn into AX Gomora. Space Godzilla eyed his foes, waiting for one of them to make a move. Channeling a large amount of power, Ultraman fired his Specium beam at a damaged area in Space Godzilla's shoulder crystal. A burst of flames and glass-like shards. The crystal exploded, drawing an agonized shriek from Space Godzilla. He turned to blast the giant humanoid into ashes. When he felt a stabbing pain in his back, Gomora immediately began to pump Space Godzilla's body full of destructive energies, unleashing his auxiliary wave inside of him. Is that what the kids call it these days? Space Godzilla fought fire with fire, sending a surge of his alien energies into his skin, blasting Gomora in the face and dislodging him. Space Godzilla swung his tail around, intent on impaling Gomora with the clutter of crystals at the tail's end. But Gomora saw the attack coming and stepped back, avoiding the tail and snatching it out of the air. Yoink. Before the cosmic terror could react, Gomora tugged with all his strength and pulled Space Godzilla high into the air. Space Godzilla shrieked in surprise as he was tossed high into the air by Gamora's Mary Sue powers. Before Space Godzilla could activate his flight crystals, Gomora pulled down on his tail, yanking him back down to Earth and slamming him into the pavement. Screamed down as his right shoulder crystal exploded, shattered by the impact. Gomora and Ultraman stood side by side and cautiously watched Space Godzilla as he slowly floated back to his feet. Space Godzilla tried to summon more power with which to annihilate his foes, but with his shoulder crystals gone, the power that came to him had nowhere to go. Left with few options, he raised more crystals from the ground and fired them off. Unfortunately, due to his low power, only a scant few shot towards the pair. Ultraman and Gomora were ready and returned fire with their energy blast. They easily tore through the crystal rockets, destroying them, and continued on, blasting Space Godzilla in the chest. The space monster brought up his shield, but only had enough strength to keep it up for a few moments before they were blasted through it and slammed into his chest. The beams exploded against SpaceGodzilla again and 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 again, driving him back until he crashed into the Tokyo Tower. SpaceGodzilla roared in defiance as their beams burnt into his flesh, their energies crossing with his own, out of control, with his own out of control power. Gamora and Ultraman poured their energy and more energy into the attack, not letting up for even a second. Red and blue energy crackled over SpaceGodzilla's body as he howled into the sky, unable to deny the inevitable. In a massive ball of fire, SpaceGodzilla exploded, taking Tokyo Tower and most of the surrounding area with him. Thankfully, so neither him nor anyone in the area could hear Gomora. Had the pair of heroes not been shielding their eyes, they would have noticed the golden particles rising from the flames and disappearing into the sky. Ultraman's color timer was beeping non-stop now. It was time to go. The mighty warrior faced Gomora and nodded to the dinosaur, who returned the gesture. Gomora watched as Ultraman leapt into the air and disappeared into the stratosphere, just to get away from Gomora. The reptile turned and made his way back to the hole in the ground he had emerged from. Climbing inside, Gomora burrowed his way back to the depths of the earth, once again trying to find the sun. Mary Sue, Crybaby Gomora, and Banner.
Oh yeah, and Banner, yeah. Yeah, Ultra the man. Anyway. But yeah, this was you know what? This was actually a solid fight overall. I actually was kind of a fan of the first half of the fight before Gamora showed up. Like, yeah, after Gamora showed up, things were decent. Like, there are highlights here and there, but I'm actually kind of a huge fan of the first half where Ultraman's fighting flying SpaceGodzilla. I feel like that flying SpaceGodzilla is something I feel like is not utilized enough. So it was nice to see that here. Though I could be totally wrong.
Agreed.
No, you're right. The only other thing I will say in this regard is the fact that did anyone else realize that SpaceGodzilla heard beeping, and then the rest of the match happened? So basically, Ultraman was on his final moments for most of the match.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a little note I caught. But otherwise, I like this idea with what's supposed to be two creatures that don't like each other team beat SpaceGodzilla. I kind of wish they would have explored that a little bit more than what we got.
All right. It just seemed like the two insta hooked up, no problems at all. Which again, if you're loosely going off the Ultra Galaxy version of the character, I guess it's just kind of like insta, you're my buddy, as opposed to having some sort of I'm hesitant, but I'll team up with you anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Otherwise, the fight was pretty solid.
Yep.
And the ending climactic, super oscillatory wave and dual beam basically blasting SpaceGodzilla into the tower and causing. Yeah, it's a good climax. I'll say that.
All right, it's good enough. So, good stuff. So, very enjoyable.
Yep.
The banner for this one, a bit more on the simple side, but not bad. It's decent enough, though a lot of I don't know, it's placed a little weirdly. You get the full upper torsos of Ultraman and Gamora, but SpaceGodzilla's just literally the upper body. I don't know, it's just a little weird.
Yeah.
So.
All right.
A little on the simple side. Weird when you really look at it, but not inherently bad. So
that eye of Gamora's though, he just looks like he just woke up and he's like, "Oh, what's going on?" It's been, I'm in a fight.
Yeah. I'm in a fight when this happened.
That's what I think. That's what I think Gomora was doing before Ultraman and SpaceGodzilla started fighting.
He was just sleeping under the city, and all of a sudden, huh? What? What's going on?
Yeah. My
Yeah,
goodness.
the actual Gomora decided to fight SpaceGodzilla was because he woke him up. Was because SpaceGodzilla woke him up from a nap.
That is actually legit. That's actually pretty legit. But yeah, any
Calling
other?
it, it's canon now.
All right. Any other closing remarks?
Um, it's a good match. Has some good moments. Gomora wins because of course he has to. Good match.
Yeah. This is advanced medium. It's not on the lower tier, but it definitely what it does pretty well. And again, having him fight I always like Space Godzilla as an enemy. He's so creative in all the powers that he has.
Oh yeah.
He hasn't been. He's not used as often. He's really saved for those bigger matches because he really is a powerhouse.
Oh yeah.
But this is one of the matches where I think he's used pretty effectively. Even though I will say the next one completely blows it out of the water.
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of agree. I agree with you
Yep.
there. So
I guess in any case, guys,
Yes,
thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed.
yes.
See you next time.
Yeah, that was match 66, and we will see you guys next time for match 67. Until then, folks.
Later, guys.